मिथिला के लागे ने यो ककरो नजरिया मिथिला के लागे ने यो ककरो नजरिया
अपना मिथिला सन के ने कोनो नजरिया
अपना मिथिला सन के ने कोनो नजरिया अपना मिथिला सन के
And among their greatest legacies were the railways which fanned out to the very edges of their Indian empire. But they quit India in 1947 and hurriedly partitioned the subcontinent. Now many of the old railway routes crossed the new frontiers and were terminated. A few survived. They are India's frontier railways. In 1927, a British civil servant drew a line on a map to define the border between their British Indian Empire and the Kingdom of Nepal.
He said Nepal, I said India.
Today, that line is still marked by a chain of boundary stones and pillars. For the locals, it's a border that is almost invisible, and their national identity is just a blip of administrative history.
तो इंडिया के छी कि नेपाल के?
इंडिया के।
इंडिया के छी, केना?
नहीं सर, नेपाल के।
नेपाल के छी?
नेपाल नानी का थी नानी का में सर, इंडिया में छी।
The British also made another line, a railway line, to carry wood from Nepal to India. The forests were stripped years ago, yet the railway is still running. It travels just 20 miles from Janakpur in Nepal to Jaynagar in India and crosses the flimsy border twice a day. This is a border with no gates, no barbed wire, no fences, no guards, or even immigration checks. So there's nothing to break the journey of this 80-year-old service. Instead, its biggest problem is whether the train will run at all. The Nepal Railway Company is broke, and its last working train keeps breaking down. It's no surprise that there are regular minor derailments. They're mostly due to overloading. But each train cancellation is a disaster, both for the passengers and the workers. For them all, this borderline train is literally a lifeline. This is the story of the last train in Nepal.
आठ दिन बंद हुआ, आज लगा के 8 दिन हुआ था।
दो दिन गाड़ी चले, 4 दिन बंद है। 4 दिन गाड़ी चले तो 1 महीना बंद।
The line was once owned by the King of Nepal, a country never colonized by the British. Once 3 narrow-gauge trains a day made the 20-mile run to India. But now there's just one service, and the only engine has broken down. So at the Nepal end of the line, at Janakpur station, they haven't seen a train for 8 days.
गाड़ी तो आपको आया नहीं है तो कैसे देगा?
पैसा गरीब आदमी है,
पैसा नहीं है, गरीब आदमी है, आपको मांगता के खाते हैं।
The engine is dispatched to the Kajari repair yard and workshops, 15 miles away towards the Indian end of the line. Vilash Mandal, ace mechanic, is Nepal Railway's go-to man in an engine crisis.
उसको क्या है मतलब ट्रांसमिशन पाइप है ना वो मतलब ठंडा होता है वो ट्रांसमिशन वाइल इसको पाइप फूट गया इसीलिए खोल रहे हैं हम उसको
3 rusting engines way beyond repair are his emergency stores. 20 years ago, the Indian government presented 4 diesel engines to Nepal to replace their aging steam engines. And here in Kadjuri, right beside the maintenance shed, they've been unceremoniously dumped. However, amongst their rusting carcasses, their industrial heritage is still visible. Vasudev Mandal was born 80 years ago, and he's the last surviving steam loco driver on the Janakpur line.
150 आदमी खोटी छे हमसे वो तो सब तो कुछ नहीं है सब खत्म है सब लाइन इंजन सरकार हर चीज फिट है
संचालन पे गाड़ी देना है गाड़ी चलाना है
News of the resumption of the service soon reaches Janakpur. It took Vilash and his team just 2 days to resuscitate Nepal Railway's last surviving engine, ZDM 524. The engine is bound for Janakpur. With a little luck, the train will be able to hook up with its coaches and wagons and proudly announce that the long-delayed 7 down 3:30 afternoon service to Jaynagar in India is running again. With the good news, a dormant Janakpur station springs back to life. Medicine sellers, magicians, chaiwallahs, tourists, and even train spotters from China. They jostle for space with passengers and goods. Not everybody, however, believes the train will run. But when the ticket window opens, even the skeptics are convinced. The train is definitely running. A standard ticket from Janakpur to Jaynagar costs 29 Nepali rupees, about 20 pence. Bicycles and small animals cost another 10 rupees, each way. These modest fares are the railway's sole source of income to buy diesel and pay wages. A ticket is no guarantee of a seat on Nepal Railways. There are no reservations on the 4 or 5 official coaches or goods wagons. So with 1,000 passengers and their luggage, space is at a premium. Mile journey with commuters, migrants, other smugglers, animals, cycles, even trees. Just about anything and anyone travels on this train. After 12 days of waiting, the 3:30 down service to Jaynagar in India finally sets off, bang on time. Travelling at a top speed of 10 miles an hour, it should complete the 20-mile journey to the border in about 3 hours. But with a capacity load and 7 stops along the way, it's hardly ever on time. But none of its passengers care about punctuality, so long as the train is running. The train passes through one of the poorest regions of one of the poorest countries of the world. Working in the fields provides at best a barely subsistence living.
नेपाल में देखबे कर छी कोनो कारखाना नहीं कोनो कुछो नहीं एकोटा कारखाना है से कोनो में काम क खा हाँ ये खेती बाड़ी तो केकरो जन में जाओ वो लागा 10 दिन में एक दिन समय पर तो कथि खेबे.
For a single mother of 2, the train at least offers some financial security. In Janakpur, after a successful send-off to the train, at dusk, without ceremony, the train finally crossed the border into India, arriving only 2 hours late. For some, it's the start of a new life as they set off to find work in India and beyond. For others, there's business to make, goods to shift, commerce to engage in. Just a few years ago, Jaynagar in India was a sleepy little town in the eastern province of Bihar, on the border of Nepal. But today, Jaynagar has become an important Indian railway junction, complete with an upgrade to broad gauge. Today, on this Nepali platform, as well as Regina, there's an exhausted group of pilgrims from Rajasthan. They've been travelling on Indian trains for the last 24 hours. Having covered over 1,200 miles, their last 20 will be on Nepal railways to Janakpur, the birthplace of the goddess Sita.
कितनी परेशानी है इसको मानते प्रथम श्रेणी ये प्रथम श्रेणी की ओर से की ट्रेन हमारे साथ में 200-250 लोग हैं यहाँ जनकपुर में श्री रामचरितमानस की कथा की जाएगी 9 दिन तक उसमें सब लोग हैं क्योंकि रात में हम 2 बजे यहाँ पर आ गए थे कोई साधन नहीं मिले जाने के लिए हम लोग ट्रेन पर पड़े रहे मच्छर खाते रहे.
The subcontinent of India dates back to a time when the land was defined by its pilgrim routes and mythological stories, not by territories divided by kings and governments. Janakpur station has been patiently awaiting the arrival of the train. There might be police waiting at Janakpur station.
मिथिला के लागे ने यो ककरो नजरिया